Hello everyone, welcome to this episode. In this episode, we are going to work on registering a user and also providing some sort of authentication around our customer form. So let us go ahead and look at it. I would like us to create a Livewire component that we are going to call login. So I'm going to run the command php artisan make Livewire, artisan make Livewire, and then the name of our component, let us call it login, like that. It's going to create for us a login class and also a view, or in other words a component for that matter. And I would also want to go ahead and create the register one. So I'm also going to do php artisan make Livewire register, and the register component is the one that we are going to work on in this tutorial episode. So now I would like to open app Livewire, and then we are going to open register, because at least for a user to be able to log in, we must first be able to register them, and that's the reason why I want us to first of all begin with this one. And of course I'm going to set the properties that you have in our form. In this case we just go with public name, and then I will copy this one 3 times. So you have email, and then finally you have password, like that. After that, I would like us to also be able to save these credentials and also be able to log in the user who has registered immediately now. So I would like us to have a function here which we are going to call store user, public function store user. You can call it register new user or something, whatever it is that you want to call it, but you can just call it this for the sake of it. Then I want us to have some validation rules, so I have validated, and then we are going to have the rules. So we're going to say this validate, and then we have an array. Sorry, I have supposed to be square brackets. This one here supposed to be square brackets, like that. And so we have name, and for the name we want it to be required, and then the email I also want it to be required. And of course you can set a little bit more validation. You can say you want it to be a valid email. You can also say that you want it to be unique, such that you will not have 2 people registering in the same users table with the same email. So unique users, in this case is a users model or table that we are working with. And then of course we have password, and here we can have required, and then maybe maximum 255, just to be able to prevent an error. We add that to all the others, max 255, and then of course this one also maximum characters 255. And I would also want for the password, we can be able to have the minimum number of characters, so minimum 8 characters, like that. So that will be our validation rules. I have saved, and I have an error, so let me close it here, because that is why the error is there. After we have validated our user, the next thing that you're supposed to do is to be able to save this user. So I'm going to just say user, and before we do that, let us import the user model here. So I'm going to write use app models user, like that. And basically what I'm doing, I'm just doing it the normal Laravel way, with of course a little bit minor modifications. So we are going to just have user create, and then we can be able to now pass in, I would have said validated, but remember for the password we have to hash it before we save it in the database. So that's the reason why I have to just work with each one of them individually, or else I could be able to just modify the password only and save. So we can just say that the name value will be whatever it is that has been set in this name, and then of course I want to copy the others. So we have email and we have password, but of course this one I've typed it wrongly. It's supposed to be this, and this one should be email. And for the password we have to hash it. So I'm going to just do bcrypt like that, and then I will just close it in that way, but it's supposed to be this, not this, like that. So once we have it like this, we'll be able to save our user. But since I intend to use the user data that we have saved, I would like to just also just have it as a variable. So I have user is equals to the user model create, like that, such that after that I can be able to log in the user in a simple way by just saying auth login, like that, and this will be able to log in our user. So auth login user, like that. This will actually be able to log in our user. Then of course I can redirect now to customers. I can go ahead and return, and we can have this. So sort of like when I'm redirecting to customers, sort of like you are redirecting maybe to a dashboard or something, but in this case we can just have it like this. And if you're able to follow and understand what we are doing, it is possible for you to be able to implement this in your own scenario. So customers, you remember this route, we had it last time, and then we can say navigate true, and I think that should be all about how we can be able to handle this user registration. So let me just extend, we have not tested, let me just extend such that you can be able to see almost the whole store user method the way we have it. So basically that is what we have. I'm going to save this, and then what we need now is a form. And for us to be able to have the form, we will go to maybe Bootstrap. Let me just do that. So you go to getbootstrap.com. I just want to copy a form there very quickly. So in docs, you scroll down, there's somewhere we have a form. Yes, this one. And before we have a form, maybe I can use a card the same way I did for the others. So if you're able to follow the previous tutorials, maybe it can be easy for you to just follow up quickly. So you copy everything that we have here. Maybe I can just copy here. Then we are going to paste the card inside the register component. So you go to views Livewire, then inside here we have register. So then it was created with a command that we did put. So I will put my card, and maybe we can be able to just modify and just sort of make the card a little bit smaller. So we can say offset -3 column 6, like that. And then inside the card body is where we are going to have our form. So I go back to get bootstrap, and then where is the form? Where is the form? Yes, here, overview. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just copy this form and paste it as is, and then I modify it just a little bit. Of course, it will not be looking very nice, but it will not be that bad. So now I have three things. We have the email, and then we have the password, and then we have the checkbox. Maybe that one we can remove it for now. And then I want to copy what we have for the first div here, the one that is for the email. We want to copy and have sort of like require our customer to give us a name. And just to mention something, we will not be creating the user what is it called, the user model and the user migration, because they exist by default. So you will not see me doing that, and even in your application you don't have to go to those things because they actually exist. So this first input, we are going to call it let me just extend this such that we can be able to focus a little bit closely. So the first label, we are going to call it name. And then the second label, we call it email address, and then the third one we will call it password. I think that one is perfect. And then here we are going to have wire model, sort of to bind our inputs to our properties that we are having in the register class, the one that we worked on previously. And here we are going to have name, and then I'm going to just copy this one. So you just copy it and paste in the second input where we have email, and this one we are going to call it email. And then lastly we are going to also paste it on the last one. So wire model, we are going to have password, like that. Obviously, for purposes of password confirmation, probably we can be able to make this dynamic such that we can be able to view the password. But I might not be able to go into that for now. I guess before we finish the tutorial series, we can be able to just do that for one single small video. Now we have everything nicely here. I also want to handle the errors, so the validation errors, and I would just like to open something that we did previously. So in our previous tutorial, I have opened the edit customer, and we have div at error name at end error end of the div. So that's what I'm going to copy because it's exactly what you're going to work with, so sort of like a repetition. And then we are going to paste it here. So where we have the name, let me begin with that one, where we have the name. So we will show if there is an error that is occurring as a result of name, and then we will go and also do the same for email. I would like to remove this, then we put this one and just change this to email, and then we will go to the last one, which is our password, and I'm going to just paste this one here and call it password, like that. I think our form is almost good. Let us go and create a route for registering a user. So let me just move it a little bit down here so we can say route get register, and then we can have the register class like that, because it's the one that will be showing us this view. And I would like to just scroll up here and also include it here. So I'll just copy this one. So we just call it register like that. So after that, I think now we can be able to load our register route. So I would like to just click here, and instead of customers, just want to try register and see what happens. And now we are loading our form. If I decide to click submit, now it's returning the validation errors, and I do not know why it's not working. Yes, we are not, there's something that we are not doing. Let us go back to our register.blade in our Livewire component, and this form we are submitting, but where it is going is not known. Even me, I do not know. So let us at least give it some sort of direction. So here we can have wire submit like that, and then we are going to submit to which method. We created a method. Did we call it store user? I suppose store user. If it is not there, we will get an error and we will know whether I have done something wrong. But I think that one is now perfect. So let us refresh. We can even just rewrite it entirely. /register like that. And now when we hit submit, we are now getting the validation error. So everything is good. Of course, up here in our form is written featured. We can just say register like that. And now, as you can see, it's possible for us to get validation errors. But I also want to do a little bit more. Now, if forget about this 2 days ago, maybe I can go to the form and delete it. Where is it? This text footer. I can remove the whole of it and save. Let us try and see how the form looks. Now, form doesn't have a footer. I think that is okay. But I also want to include something here for purposes of a user coming to the register page and yet they already have an account. So I would just like to have a div. You can have div I would like us to create a div here. Close it like that. Here maybe we can have it having a class similar to what we are having here, MB3 like that. And here what we can have is already have an account. So it's a user who has landed on the register page, but they actually have an account. So these ones we can give them or create for them a button that you take them to login. So here we can give it a class. Can give this button a class of btn success. btn success like that. And then also we can use wire navigate. And then we can give the link. So href, in this case I want them to go to login, but you can remember that we have not been able to create this login class, so currently I will not even dare to click on this button, and here we can say login, like that. So when I save, if we are to refresh our page, then we are going to have it look something of that sort. So already have an account, login, maybe not nicely positioned, but don't worry about it. So now as we click submit, we are getting validation errors. So I would like us to go ahead and attempt and see if we can be able to register a user. But before we register a user, I would like us to go back to our register class and see if it is possible for us to redirect. I do not know if we have done that. I want us to redirect, and once we have been able to redirect, then I think that will be sort of like, oh, we have been able to redirect. And on top of that, I would like us to, as much as we are redirecting to the customers, I would also want us to go ahead and also just provide a session message to just say that we have been able to register successfully. So in this case, I'm going to provide session flash. In this case, we are going to have session after we log in, we are going, before we redirect, session flash. And in this case, we are going to have success. Remember, in our previous tutorial, we handled this one, so I think it will just work perfectly for us. So we can say registration successful, or something of that sort, or welcome to your new dashboard, whatever it is that you would want to tell this newly registered user. So now let us go and attempt and see if we can be able to be redirected where we want to go. I'm going to type in my name, William, and I do not know, there's a probability that my email exists actually, Juma, and let us have Juma, maybe this one does not exist, Juma at example.net. This one does not exist. Then the password, I can type in my password like that. So once I submit, I'm being asked that I need to put an @ in my name field, and I think that one is not supposed to be the case because we forgot to do something. So let me go to register.blade, and I need to change the type of the first input to text, not email, text, like that. I think that is perfect. Now we can be able to refresh. Let me create this user again, William, Juma. And first of all, let me attempt to use an email that probably we had in the previous tutorial. So we had William at example. No, there's because we were creating the customers, so this one I think you have no issue. So William at example.net. So then the password like that. When I submit, we are waiting. I think we have an error. Yes, Livewire auth not found. And here what we are going to do is just to import the auth facade. I think that is what I forgot. Whenever we use in our class or anywhere in Laravel, be it the controllers or wherever, if you are using the auth facade, then you have to import it up here. So in this case, I'm going to just say use illuminate support facades, and in this case auth. And sometimes you can just say use auth, it will just work. But so let me just click outside such that I can attempt to submit the same credentials. Now it says the email has been taken. So in this case, this user has already been registered in the system, and now it's giving us validation errors. So let me change this to Juma, like that. Submit. Now you can see we're being redirected to customers. Of course, currently, whether somebody is logged in or not, they can be able to visit customers. And so what happens, we can be able to protect the customer. Let me just close this. Is making my code a little bit clouded. Okay, yes, we can make our, in our web.php, we can wrap the whole of our links regarding the customer in a group function with the middleware of auth. So let us do that, such that now if somebody is not registered, they cannot be able to visit this route. So we can say route middleware, and then of course we are going to say what our middleware is. In this case, our middleware is auth, and then group function, and inside here we can have our routes now. So I'm going to close this one and then copy everything that we have here that relates to the, maybe even cut whatever it is that relates to customers, such that all the routes will be protected in this case, depending with what you want to do. So for our case, I want all this to be authenticated such that somebody cannot be able to visit those routes without being authenticated. But if I attempt to check again, now you can see we are still able to visit that route. Now that is sort of like the end of this episode. I just want you to check that if even when we attempt to check for the authenticated user, we can be able to get their name. So I can go to customers.blade, the class which is loading our recent view. So customers.php, sorry. So before we are returning the view, I can just, here where we are rendering, I can just say dd, we can say auth user name, like that. And we want to see if a name is going to pop up. In this case, if there is an authenticated user that has been authenticated by session. So here I can just say use auth, this is short form, and see what is going to happen. If we have the name, I think that would be good enough. Now you can see we are having the name, so meaning everything is perfect and the system is able to notice that we actually have an authenticated user. So let me just remove this, and that would mean this is the end of this episode. Thank you very much for following up until this point.